Hello, I'm Elder Rick, and I'm here today to present another one of God's promises and biblical hope for today's world. Today I'm reading from 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13, and it says, "The temptations in your life are no different from what others experience, and God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. When you are tempted, He will show you a way out so that you can endure." What Paul is doing here in chapter 10 of 1 Corinthians is describing the various temptations that overcame the Hebrews as they crossed the Sinai to the Promised Land. He also describes the many accommodations God provided to make that crossing, that trek, more palatable, such as the clouds by day, the fire by night, the daily manna and water. Yet in chapter 10, Paul continues to tell us that despite all these miracles performed by God, the Hebrews grumbled and fell away to temptation. He tells the Corinthians, and us indirectly, that God did not allow the temptations from Satan to be more than what the Hebrews could handle, provided they remained faithful to God. And this is a very important point. If the Hebrews had remained faithful to God in their daily devotions and prayers, they would not have been overcome by temptation. What happened to the Hebrews? Well, all those that left Egypt, but two, died before they could ever enter the Promised Land. And Paul also informs the Corinthians that the temptations they faced daily were much more severe than what we would face daily. And why is that? Well, God was in their presence 24 hours a day. He had all these miracles that he performed. So his presence protected the Hebrews. And yet, because of their grumbling, because of their dissatisfaction, because they were not faithful in their devotions, Satan was able to defeat those Hebrews, and they were unable to overcome their temptations and died. By our daily devotions and prayers to our Heavenly Father, we too can bask in His presence just like the Hebrews were able to do as they crossed the Sinai. Any temptation that comes our way can easily be overcome if we put our complete trust and faith in God. Paul tells us in verse 13 that God will not allow any temptations to come our way that we cannot overcome. What we must learn from those temptations is that God will always provide us the strength and the means to overcome Satan's temptations if we ask God for His assistance. Temptations are a necessary part of our walk as a Christian. Overcoming those temptations strengthens our faith. And the more powerful our faith, the better we are able to become as Christians, as well as to recognize our need for the presence of God indwelling in us via His Spirit. When we walk with the Lord, there's no valley too dark that we cannot find our way out. There will be no affliction too great that God cannot prevent it, defeat it, remove it, or enable us to overcome it. When we are baptized to the Lord, it means that we pledge ourselves to His service, heart, body, and soul. It means that we are determined to live the life that He would like us to live, and that we gladly are willing to do so. It also means that we are putting ourselves under His protection wholeheartedly. Finally, it means that we want a daily communication with God so that we may bathe in His presence. And in His presence, we will find that indwelling Spirit in us to give us our strength that we need on a daily basis. You see, we were not born with the strength of angels, but we can receive it through God if we remain faithful. He promises to provide us the means to overcome any temptation that comes our way, as long as we remain faithful. And unfortunately, as long as we live on earth, the temptation is a daily occurrence. And it is amazing and heartening to know that God will never desert us, and He will always provide for us that strength that we need to overcome temptation. So be safe, and God bless.